added height. So as soon as I saw what this topic was, I thought, how perfect that it's following truth. Because when I spoke about truth, I spoke about the truth of spirit, God, love is always at work in our lives. And now the task is to accept that spirit, God, love is always, always at work in our lives, even though in a particular moment or moments, we may not be experiencing that. And I had a big plan for this morning. I looked to see what Ernest Holmes said about acceptance. Didn't really love some of what it was very valuable information, but I didn't really love it. And I did more searches for quotes about acceptance. And then I found an article, 3.5 pages long, written by a woman named Judith Johnson. She's an author of a book called Making Peace with Death and Dying. I thought, oh, that's a big acceptance one, particularly making peace with death and dying when we're living. And yes, it's so easy to think of that as our physical death, but there are chapters of our lives that die, that end, that come to a conclusion. And we have to let go and not simply focus on, oh, remember then? Oh, it was so great then. So this morning I had this big plan of just highlighting what I loved in here, because I was not going to stand here and read because I like to talk. You probably know that about me already. Oh, and hi, those of you on Zoom. I apologize for not saying hello first. And so my simple way to think about acceptance is really very practical. How many in here or on Zoom use a GPS? Yeah, a lot of us, particularly when we're going someplace new or possibly looking for a new road, although I often don't go the way the GPS says, and I wanted to reroute part of the way I want to go. I see acceptance this way. In order for your GPS to get you to your desired location, you must put in your current location. If you don't put in your current location, the GPS will not give you a list of directions, or a voice will not tell you in 1/4 mile, turn right. And so I like that simple explanation because I use a GPS a lot. And I have to put in my current location to get to wherever I want to go. So that just seems very practical to me. But acceptance is not for the weak of heart. Acceptance of what's going on in the present moment, when we may not want to accept it. We may like to be angry or annoyed or feel victimized by, or woe is me, and are in search of someone to tell about our horrendous story. And there's a good chance that the person we tell, or the people we tell, will say, oh, that was so terrible. Oh, poor you, you should have said this, you should have said that, you should have done this, don't do that. But acceptance means, it doesn't necessarily mean in the moment I'm going to be ready to walk on water, or in the moment I'm going to be joyous. But it means acknowledging where I am in the present moment, and then making choices. And sometimes the choice is as simple as, God, help me. You don't have to read 3.5 pages. to get that one. And so I want to share with you a bit about my morning, because it really changed what I was going to say today. So I wake up early and I have a phone call very early in the morning. And today, which is pretty unusual, I was totally deflated by the phone call, by the end of the phone call. I didn't like life. I didn't want to leave for Portugal tomorrow. I didn't want to follow any of the plans that I have made for months. And then I added to that, and I was so righteous. I was so right. I knew I was right. You know that feeling of when you're disappointed and deflated, and it's so visceral, and the voices in our head could be very, very loud. And I'm thinking, I'm talking about acceptance in 2 hours from now. Okay. So then I got annoyed with myself because I was very tired yesterday, went to sleep very early, and didn't highlight the lines that I loved on this. I didn't put out anything which is out there now. I hadn't realized that I had to make some changes in a workshop that I'm offering in October that I wanted to have out here, a flyer out here. And I forgot, because something happened with my computer last week, that whenever I go on to a new app on my computer, I need my password again. And because I've been hacked so many times, my password is in this little book that I have to go through the pages of, and then it didn't work. So I tried a new browser. It wound up working. And so all of this time I was saying, you're talking about acceptance today. Accept what's going on. Okay, I did the flyer. Excuse me, I did the flyer. I put in the correct dates. And then I remembered my printer was out of paper, but I had bought paper yesterday. So from the walk from the seat I was sitting on to my printer, which is not far at all, I was so thrilled that I had bought paper yesterday. So then I put it into the computer. I print just one to make sure the colors come out. And I get a message that says, low ink. And the images on the top of the page don't come out. Okay, but I have ink. So I get the ink, I open up the top of the computer, I put it in, and then I get a message, must remove the strip on the cartridge. Okay, I do that. My alarm is going off. It's time to get ready to come here. I put in the ink. I finally print. And so I'm feeling kind of good. Maybe I won't leave the house at exactly 9 o'clock because West Hampton is a ways away. And I'm moving along just fine. And I get it out and I decide this is really a good day for me to wear my prayer shawl. So I choose something that matches it, which was not this. This came later. And I open up my closet and most of my clothes are already packed to leave tomorrow for 3 weeks. So I find something to wear, and I have to tell you, all of this time I'm thinking about acceptance. Okay, I choose to have time expand so that I get to Watermill on time. Oh, I didn't put my books that I want to have available here if anyone wants their own copy of my fabulous books. Okay, so I need a bag to put them in. And do I have the piece that says something about the price, or do I have to make another one of those again? So I get dressed and I think I need a little makeup on. And what I originally put on, I didn't have lipstick, and I didn't want to start looking for lipstick that went with that. This is just, it's not even 9 o'clock yet. So, okay, Susyn, acceptance. And so I get dressed and I'm just about ready to go out the door. And I think my prayer shawl really doesn't look good with this. So I take off the dress. This is in my closet. I change. I'm feeling good. I go out the door. Oh, I didn't print that paper that says, "Are you interested in joining my mailing list?" So I grab a piece of notebook paper and of a spiral, and it had some of the paper, and I didn't like the way that looked, and I tried to rip it off because there were perforations, but I didn't rip it all off. So I went into the kitchen and I just folded it over. So if anyone signs the mailing list and wants to see if I'm telling the truth, just pick up the paper and you'll see some of those pages. By this time, it's 9:15. And I know that I don't know the name of the road, but where 27 comes in, it's always slow there. But I start driving and I'm listening to NPR because I like to hear what's going on in the world and about schools in Ukraine, which is really not a particularly happy topic given the emotional impact of war and that there are many schools that no longer physically exist. And there's a slow car in front of me. So I remembered what I said earlier, what I often say, I choose to have time expand so I show up in Watermill on time. My little prayer. And then I remember, because my car is the only place that I have a CD player, is in the CD player, there is a CD of music, songs by Daniel Namad. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. Namad. Well, he's the writer he wrote the lyrics for Sacred Love. He wrote the lyrics for Swing Wide the Doors. So I put them on and I turn it as loud as I can. And I do admit, I'm not great at carrying a tune, but it didn't matter. And I sang as loud as I possibly could. And then he did a version of Raising the Veil. And then I was sending thank yous to Keelan because his version is a lot more upbeat. It's the same words, but I like it a lot more. So I went back to Swing Wide the Door. And I just imagined the door of my heart opening. And then I was behind another slow car. Okay, I choose to have time expand so that I arrive here on time. And then I remembered, sometimes we start a little later than 10 o'clock. Okay, I'll be here on time. And I'm driving along and I'm feeling really good. I look at the clock on my dashboard and it seems like hardly any time has gone by. There's not going to be any problem here. And I'm rejoicing when I get into traffic again at that intersection, knowing that there's also a traffic light here. So I'm telling this story because acceptance is certainly something that's important for the big things. A wonderful place to practice it is on the little things, the little glitches. I mean, was it going to go on my personal record? Would anybody think less of me because on that handwritten Susyn's mailing list, there are some loose pieces of paper? Does it really matter that I had moments in the car, well, should I really put on the prayer shawl? And I thought, absolutely, because this prayer shawl is endowed with the energy of We Are One. And then I had the songs available. And then I had the prayers that I have said for so many years. I choose to have time expand. And so I encourage you to come up with phrases, affirmations, prayers, short ones, so you can remember them. When you notice that, when I noticed this morning that the veil was not lifted some of the time for me this morning, I was totally into separation. And even with the awareness of separation, there were moments that there was some joy in being angry. There was some joy in having someone to blame for something. But each of us has the opportunity, as we heard in the beautiful opening prayer, to invite grace into our lives. It doesn't mean grace will pop up at that exact moment. But once the invitation is there, and instead of looking for grace, we trust that the invitation has been heard, grace may pop up just when we don't expect it. And I got here on time. So, and this is practice in acceptance. So I created a deck of cards. So my charm today is in the form of cards. And when I ask them, do they have a message on the back? I'm going to start here. Make sure the middle gets. Don't look for the one you think is the perfect one for you, or you like the image on it, or well, I don't like what I got. I ask you to blindly choose it and use it. Use it today, possibly use it this week. And all of this is in service of living a wholehearted life of passion and purpose and love. Thank you for the opportunity to vent.